Hello, my name is Margaret Adele, and I am very proud of myself. The month of May was a pretty good reading month for me, especially when I went into it desperately trying to avoid a reading slump and somehow managed to come out the other end, almost tying myself for the most books I've ever read in a month. I read 15, and I also had another new friend come to the house, so there are now 2 small children running around, and I still read a lot of books, so I am very proud of myself, and knock on wood, that I can keep this going. So as usual, I'm going to begin with some very quick overviews of my review books. If you're interested to learn more about them, you can look for the links down in the description below. First up was Alethea by Dylan Madeley. This was a character study of a young princess and all of the people who were trying to influence her and the way she would rule as she is raised by the tyrant king. Up next was Dakiti by E.J. Fish, a military sci-fi in which 2 people who have very good reason to hate each other have to work together to stop space terrorists. Up next, I reviewed Calico Thunder Rides Again by T.A. Hernandez. This is a 1920s-esque fantasy world where magic has been banned, and the leader of this circus just discovers that he has a very large debt owed to the mafia. After that, I reviewed Tales of Sorcery and Silicon by Terrence McManus. This is a short story collection of both high fantasy and sci-fi stories, mostly world-building concepts that the author was working on that are low-key mind-blowing. Up next, I read the first 3 short stories in the Bryce Can Play collection by Travis Bedoin, and that is On Display, Couples Therapy, and Turned Out. These are all own voices erotica stories about Bryce, who likes to go out and play when his husband is away because his husband likes him doing that. Apparently that's their kink. But definitely erotica, but also own voices. Up next was By Sea and Sky by Antoine Bondelet. This is all about an African woman whose husband is taken and she's willing to do anything it takes, even if she has to join a pirate crew to beat a skyship. The last review book I read over the month of May was Dream Girl by S.J. Lomas, in which a young teenage girl starts working at a library, and there's a new guy, and they have a meet cute, and now she's seeing him in her dreams, but like in a weird way, and there's some stuff going on. Definitely a 2010s fantasy. YA. Now it is time for the non-review books, and again, if you'd like to know more about those review books, there will be links down in the description below to their review videos. First up, I read Crochet in Cauldrons and Stockings and Spells, both by Nancy Warren. These are the, I believe, books 3 and 4 in the Vampire Knitting Club Cozy Mystery series, all about a young woman who was trying to run her grandmother's knitting shop after her grandma was turned into a vampire. And antics ensue. I love using these kind of series when I'm near a slump. However, these 2 books started veering more towards the area of cozy mysteries that I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of. And also the love triangle kept getting more and more pronounced, and I'm not a fan of that either. I might go back to this at some point when I need more palate cleansers or get close to another reading slump, but for now I'm going to put the series away for a little bit to focus on some other books. The next book I read kind of makes me sad because it's the last one, and that is Dog Warrior by Wen Spencer. This is the 4th book in the Ukiyo Oregon series, which is a very trippy sci-fi series with like weird alien genetics, but the protagonist is an adorable soft boy. Except in this one we have dual protagonists, which we have the usual Ukiyo Oregon, but we also have the guy who might low-key be his brother, Atticus Steele. What I particularly enjoyed was the fact that Atticus had a male partner, and it's less portrayed as 2 gay men and more 1 gay man and 1 like hetero flexible man, but their romance is just so enjoyable. I love it. This again is very hard to explain, this one, not only because it's the 4th in a series, but because there's the alien stuff gets real weird, but suffice it to say we got like cults and evil alien dudes and plans to like decimate the city and a bunch of stuff and race against time and all of that. But this is also the last in the Ukiyo Oregon series, and that makes me really sad because I love this series so much. And I'm low-key wondering if like if maybe I did some research, I could find that like maybe Atticus Steele, the new protagonist introduced in this one, maybe he gets a spin-off series, because this book doesn't feel final. A lot of characters that were very important in earlier books barely get a cameo in this one, or they're like name dropped and like never spoken of again when they were like crucial in previous books. So it doesn't feel like a send-off. So my hope is, and I'm grasping at straws, that I can go do some searching and find out that this author had a spin-off sci-fi series with this same world. But I'm not entirely sure that that's accurate. I'm so sad that it's over. I need more kitschy 2000s sci-fi. Up next was another palate cleanser book to stay away from the slump, and that is Lord of Seduction by Nicole Jordan. Now, if that doesn't tell you that this is a bodice ripper, then look at that right there. So this is all about a young lord in the Regency era who needs to get fake engaged to kind of knock his family off his scent because he's doing some, like, spy things involving, like, Napoleon or something. I don't know. But I didn't really pay much attention to that part because that's not the point of it. And of course, the young artist who was turned away from marriage because of her past agrees to the fake betrothal, but wouldn't you know it, begins to become real. Honestly, I couldn't even remember like the names and details of this until I read the synopsis again, because it is such an overly done tropey book. But it was exactly what I needed to be, and a very quick read despite being like over 400 pages, so I appreciate it. Up next is something that might shock people, but I read the popular thing, and that is The Lightning Thief by Rick Riordan. I heard all the nonsense going around with like the Disney Plus show and how we're all excited, and I bought the first 5 books in the series from a thrift store for like $2 each forever ago, and so I was like, why not? Let us do the thing. Let us jump on the hype train. So I read this one. But low-key, I kind of like the Magnus Chase series more. So if you do not know, this series is about a young boy named Percy who discovers that he is the son of a god, and Zeus thinks he stole his lightning bolt, so now he's kind of like on a deadline to stop a war of the Greek gods breaking out. It's good fun, but also I like Riordan's later works a little bit more, not gonna lie. However, I will be continuing with the series at some point. They're mid-grade, they're quick, and also, not gonna lie, sometimes it is fun to jump into the popular thing. Next, we're back to the weird paperback romances, but this one was more memorable, and that is So I Married a Sorcerer by Carolyn Sparks. This is the sequel in the, what's this series called? The Embraced series, I believe. I read the first book that I got for $5 from a Walmart because it is grocery store romance, but I love it. All about this world where people who are born under what is essentially a like lunar eclipse end up with magical powers, but are also like low-key persecuted for it. And this group of adopted sisters are basically one by one going to find their romance partners. So in the first one, we saw one girl who could see the dead, and in this one, it's a girl who basically can learn everyone's secrets just by touching them, which is kind of freaky, not gonna lie, and find lost things. She can find lost things and secrets. And she's kind of kidnapped by a pirate. Like, it's not as swashbuckly and as 80s paperback romance as you're thinking, but wouldn't you know it, that pirate has a history and he's not actually a bad guy, and they might have a connection, and is she a princess? And it's a lot more fun than the other one. I think this book was also published a lot later than the other one. And again, they're really cheap grocery store romances, but I love it, and I will probably be continuing with the series. Up next was a novella I finished today, and it made me feel good about myself, and that is Siege Weapons by Harry F. Ray. This is MLM Own Voices sci-fi, and the reason I began with it being MLM Own Voices is because there's a lot of erotica for it being a sci-fi. I think it's like a sci-fi erotica, which I didn't know was a thing, but I'm low-key into it. All about the last surviving person off this planet, and he works for a freighter company of dubious repute who sends him to this planet that is low-key in quarantine. Well, not quarantine, stockade. And he realizes some things about what he's being asked to deliver and gets caught up in some things. And like, again, a lot of sex scenes. So I really enjoyed it. I also low-key enjoyed all of the wordplay. So in this world, they have humans are a much more varied group. This is very far off in the future where like humans have spread across multiple planets. Now there's like multiple like subspecies of human now, but they're still all called Homo sapiens. So they're shortened to Homo. And then all other non-human species are referred to as heteros, aka not sapiens, different from sapiens. And at first I read it as, wow, this kind of reads as low-key racist because the protagonist is really into talking about how horrible the aliens are. But then I realized he's not talking about how horrible the aliens are. It's a tongue-in-cheek joke because he talks about how horrible the heteros are, which is a lot more amusing of a joke. I mean, I would still maybe downplay his annoyance with everything not human a little bit, but beyond that, I loved the in-joke, and I'm also loving just reading some of that erotica as a palate cleanser. I really love the list I got from Travis Bedoin with all of these own voices authors, and I have been making use of it, as you will see in my next read, The Vampire Baron by Dorian Flynn. This is a short story, I think it was like 50 pages, all about a young working man whose family's inn has burned down, so he must go ask for help from this mysterious manor and its mysterious lord. And wouldn't you know it, more weird dream stuff. There's a lot of weird dream stuff this month, but it is, again, has some erotica and some very melodramatic vampire-human relationship goodness, a lot of angst, but it was also adorable, and I appreciated it. And I appreciate that list in general, and I will definitely be making more use of it. I am actually reading one of the books from that list that I got for Pride. I am doing a little bit of like a 5-book list for Pride. I am not going to try too hard to match what I read this month. Again, a lot of it was like short story collections and short stories and novellas, so I get that like I'm not reading it like 15 300-page books, but I appreciate what I am reading, and I'm going to hopefully continue. Thankfully, home visits for our littles start this month, so I'll have a little bit more time to myself, but I'm not going to push it too hard because next month in July begins the Bookie Trials, and that's really what I want to dedicate the big ready month to. So I gotta keep making sure that I'm inching farther back from that reading slump so that I'm prepared to do the big readathon, because low-key, I don't think I've done any readathons this month. Like, have I? It's a weird year, guys. I mean, that's not news. It's a weird year. But regardless, thank you so much for watching, and with nothing else to say, I hope you have a wonderful day and a marvelous tomorrow.